Welcome to Flights, the podcast where we uncork the secrets to running a successful destination wedding and group travel business. Each episode, we will explore the good, bad, and ugly of destination weddings while sipping on the finest wines from our pantries.
As your hosts, we believe in savoring the journey with a glass of wine in hand. Join us, Mario Lopez and Ashley Morris of Destination Wedding University, as we explore all of the adventures and misadventures that we experience in this crazy industry. Your face. Don't yawn.
What?
Don't yawn.
Don't.
I just learned that Mario yawns when he looks at himself on camera. I'm trying to understand why.
I'm just trying to look from like here up so that I don't see myself, because it's going to happen the second that I do. But you know, we'll get there.
Now we're all watching. Now we're all watching for it. All right. So recording a podcast with Mario was not on my list for 2023, but here we are, end of the year, and so much has happened.
So much has happened. It's been quite the year for everyone, for sure.
So we are recording, as I drop my pen, true professionals here. We are recording a podcast called Flights. Let's tell everyone how we got here to this podcast and the meaning of flights, because I think it's really fun.
Okay. All right. So there's a couple. Let me start with the meaning of flights. I think we'll start there. I'll back into the rest. So it's threefold with flights. It was something that we had talked about as what this next step of messaging to agents about how to grow their business and how we get the word out there. And the podcast seemed like the most natural way to do it. It's something that my husband Will had done in the past, and I think it was really effective just to make sure that we are communicating everything that we're doing within the university. So it's the idea of flights came around. I think we were WhatsApping each other like we always do, and I was like, what about flights? And it started with travel and like the natural connection to travel, right? And just airplanes and planes, trains, and automobiles. But then also, we both have a little bit of an affinity for wine. So that's, yeah. So
been known to have a glass or two.
Exactly. Incorporate our cocktails into it. Hello. Good morning. That's and then and then also we wanted to be a little bit symbolic, like people taking flight in their careers and making sure that they're taking their businesses to that next level and that six-figure level and giving themselves kind of the life and the dream that they have for themselves. So I thought that was a really good way to approach it.
Yeah, I love it.
The reason that we ended up here, let's dive into that a little bit.
I feel there needs to be an explanation. We've captured everyone's interest by just jumping into it, but now we need to back up and explain who the hell are these people.
So my husband Will started the Destination Wedding University 5 years ago. And the whole point of the university was to educate agents on how he grew his business, how he automated things, the steps that he took to make sure that his business was solid and he had, regular leads coming in and he was converting those leads to new sales. Will passed away unexpectedly in February. Sorry, gonna start already. All right. So Will passed away unexpectedly in February, and we had a choice at that time to either fold up shop and be thankful for the lessons that we had, or to keep everything moving and to continue the community and to continue putting these good vibes and these lessons out into the world and making sure that everyone has the chance to live the life that they wanted to live, right? So we decided to keep it going. And the agents that are already in the playbook already know this. It's new agents that are listening to this probably, that won't know quite as much. But you were one of the initial students, one of the OGs, as we call them in the inner circle, and you applied a lot of lessons that you had from the playbook into your own business. And so when everything happened, you played such an integral part in helping to keep things moving, helping to keep the conversations moving when I couldn't do it. And then once I was, able to get my head wrapped around things and make sure that we had made the decision to keep things moving forward, it was a natural fit to make sure that you were part of the Destination Wedding University team and making sure that we are able to get the messages across and show that, the experience that the playbook has had on both of us and how it's affected us differently. And we'll tell a lot of that as we go.
Yes. So here we are, officially a team, officially a duo. Going to keep this train moving. and it's been a wild few months getting to this point, but I agree. It does feel very natural. I didn't expect to get emotional right away. It does feel like this is what he would want us to do. You were right. I was in the first playbook class, gosh, 2018. I cannot even believe it's been 5 years. And we'll talk about my story in the next episode. Today's about you. But to give people a little bit of background, I had done a few weddings. I had been in the business a couple of years, but I knew Will personally, and I knew I could learn a lot from him. And so I joined the first playbook. That group was very small. That first group was tight. And it's just been part of my life ever since. So here we are 5 years later, doing something new, different. We're doing it scared, which is what Will would want us to do. And this podcast is meant to introduce, hopefully, new members of our family to you and to me and to us as a team. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So that was the long-winded way of telling people why we're here. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions about yourself.
Nice. Can't
which
wait.
I know you love. Everyone loves being put on the spot. No, but when we laid out the episodes, I knew we had to have a meet Mario, because I think Will was so big. We've talked about this before. Will was so big and so amazing and out there and just in all those great and wonderful ways. But I don't think a lot of people realize that with every big personality, there is someone very steady behind the scenes, keeping things going. And you have to, that's why you two complemented each other so well, both in life and in the business. So let's back up from the very beginning. You're from Wisconsin originally. We actually lived in Wisconsin at the same time, which we didn't find out until years later. And we never met, which is too bad. But let's start. So you grew up in Waukesha, like actually in Waukesha, right?
Waukesha, Wisconsin.
Yeah. Tell us about that. What was that like?
I spent the majority of 30 years in Waukesha. Waukesha is such an amazing town. It has a small town feel, and it's just outside of Milwaukee. So you're close enough to the big city. As big city as Milwaukee gets, to be able to go out and have a good time and be able to raise a family in a really nice environment. I loved Waukesha and my time there, but as I grew older, I am a little bit more of a big city person. So went to school in 2 years at UW Eau Claire, which is the exact opposite of big city. That's very small town.
About as opposite as you. Beautiful. I love Eau Claire. I think it's gorgeous. But yeah, the exact opposite of what you're looking for when you think of the words big city.
Exactly. Eau Claire in the fall is stunning. I love it. But I definitely needed more city. And so moved down to Milwaukee for my last 2 years, graduated from UW Milwaukee with a degree in business. So focused on marketing and advertising. That's I knew from a very young age, probably junior year of high school, that advertising was going to be my career. That's what I wanted to focus on, and so I focused on that in school. I kind of have a interesting story of how I actually got into it, because I graduated in 2007, right when the economy was tanking. And
terrible time to get a job.
Terrible time to get a job in advertising. Because
I was there. We'll get into that. But yes, I remember, because I also worked in advertising. So very aware. Keep going.
So I actually was selling furniture at a little company called Steinhoffels.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this is why you asked me about Greg Steinhoffel. Okay, we'll go. We'll keep going.
So I was selling furniture at Steinhoffels. Deb and Corey, who are the owners of Z2 in Pewaukee, they came in and they were decorating their new office, and I wouldn't let them leave until they gave me an internship.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I got my internship with Z2. I worked there full time. I worked at Steinhoffels full time. It was a chaotic time, but then eventually transitioned over to agency life full time. I was in agencies for 15 years and really started focusing not only on the marketing and advertising side of things, but really got big into operations and efficiencies and trying to make sure that everything ran as smoothly as possible. As you well know, in agency life, if it doesn't run efficiently, then it doesn't run at all.
It doesn't. And for people who don't know, 15 years in advertising time is like an eternity. Like 15 years is like 30 years of real people time. So I'm sure you have lots of stories and lots of examples of how you've improved things and made things better, and all things that can apply to travel. Sorry, my dog is barking. That's going to be part of this. We both have dogs, and there's going to be dog noises in this podcast. No, I was trying to think this morning of the first time. I mean, I knew you through Will, and he had told me that you worked in advertising, and we had that in common. I think I was saying something one day, and he was like, "You sound just like Mario," because it was definitely like ad agency lingo. And I was in town in Florida for GTM or a cruise or something. And Will picked me up, and we were supposed to go to dinner, but he got lazy and said, let's just go to my house. And so we went to your house, and you were there, and you asked me if I knew Greg Steinhoffel, which cracked me up because he was the CEO of Target, which is where I worked many years ago, but he's from Wisconsin, you're from Wisconsin. And that's where we started to kind of put it all together, that we had this similar background.
You and I have been orbiting each other for a very long time.
I know, it's weird. But it's one of those things, like there are no accidents. I don't think this would work as well, and I don't think we would be here now if we didn't have a lot of that common background. So somebody knew what to do, and somebody knew that this would work, and here we are. So how did you meet Will, and how did you end up in Florida? Tell people that story.
Our story. Okay. So I always feel like I have to dumb down the story because when I say it first, it doesn't come out right. But we said we weren't going to filter it all, so that's here we are.
Oh yeah, no filtering. This is real.
So my cousin was throwing a fuck love Valentine's Day party. Also,
you win for the first one. We wondered who would drop the first F-bomb, because between the two of us, it's going to happen. So congratulations. If I had a trophy, I would give it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. We should give the little disclaimer that if anyone listening to this will listen to it on your earpods or in your headphones or in your car, as long as you don't have
little ears.
Yeah, there will be more of those. So
back to the fuck love party.
So it was an anti-Valentine's Day party. Everyone there was very bitter and did not want to be in a relationship on Valentine's Day. And so it was a party. I was bartending at the time. And so I got things all set up. It was back in the day of MapQuest before navigation. And so Will lived in South Milwaukee, which was a good 25 minutes from where we were. Yeah. And there was an ice storm. And so he left super early to get to the party, which if anyone knows my husband, that's not a thing. He doesn't do early.
Just picturing him with his little printed map.
Yep.
That's a great visual.
And he showed up to the party about 20 minutes, half an hour early before anyone else, right? He sees me, he comes and he sits down at my bar, and I proceed to get him blackout drunk. And he doesn't remember the rest of the party. He went upstairs, passed out in one of the beds, and that was the end of his night, basically before anyone got there.
He was so tiny then, it wouldn't have taken much. He was like a tiny, tiny person. When you look back at those old photos, I love this story. I've heard it before, but I love it.
So we actually did not see each other for another 3 years after that. And it was on Facebook, people you may know. And I popped up in People You May Know, and he's like, oh, it's the hot bartender from the party. And so I was like, sweet. So he messaged me that there was some, Facebook flirting going on. And then we had our first date on the 4th of July.
Ah.
Yeah. So we were both working. That was when I was Z2 and Steinhoffel's.
You're busy.
Yeah, I was working 2 full-time jobs. Will was working countless jobs, and he was going to school down in Chicago as well. So we didn't really have a lot of time to connect. And so we ended up getting together on the 4th of July at his apartment. There were fireworks, and I don't think I left after that. I think it was pretty much every night from there. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And then you ended up in Florida, kind of by design, kind of happenstance. Tell people about that.
Yes. So Will had told me / threatened me for a very long time that he was going to be moving to Miami. This was how Will operated. This is, you put it out in the universe and you do it, right? And
Yeah.
so he's going to be moving to Miami. I can come if I want to. Don't have to. That was his stance on it. And we decided I wanted to go. He was moving to Miami. He wanted to be an actor and was attending acting school down in Miami.
I
And
wanted to be in a novella.
in novela, yes, that's right. Oh, those Spanish soap operas. That's anyways. So it's in every episode. Listen to a novela. It's in every episode. So he's wanting to go to school. He moves down. My rule was I wasn't going to move down without a job. I worked really hard to get into advertising, and I wasn't going to give it up. So finally, I landed an interview at Redline Media Group and accepted the position with them almost immediately, and moved down about 9 months after Will.
That didn't take long, especially like in that time. That's pretty quick.
Yeah, it went relatively smooth. There were a couple interviews. I actually threw a couple interviews. I flew down a couple times, and some of them were like, I don't need this one. So
good to be choosy.
Yeah, Redline was a great fit, and I was there for 7 years. I'm very thankful for my time there as well. Learned a lot.
7 years is a long time. And so your primary client, this is another weird situation, like very funny how things happen in life that they were meant to be. Tell everyone who your main client was at Redline.
So a couple years into the position, we started working with Hard Rock International. And so I was doing the branding and some of the advertising for hotels, casinos, cafes worldwide. And that was just another way that, Will and I's worlds always kind of ran a little parallel. And Hard Rock was a huge one of them because Will works with Hard Rock all the time on the other side, on the all-inclusive side. And so it was nice to see, well before I ever got directly into the business, it was nice to see some of my work that then Will would end up getting when
it's so funny.
New wedding packages came out, and it was, our branding that was in there, our logo that was in there for the weddings, things like that. It's a lot of fun.
It's okay. So just to tell everyone, sitting next to you at Showstoppers this year, we're watching the presentation of Hard Rock, and Mario starts elbowing me. I made that. I did that. That's mine. That's not supposed to be that way. It was just, you have been so intertangled in hospitality and travel. I think sometimes people hear, eventually we'll get to the part where you became part of Destination Weddings Expert, but I think people thought you just picked that up. You were travel and hospitality adjacent your whole career. Like you've been around this the whole time.
Absolutely.
And I want people to know that because you were also at an advertising agency, which for people who don't know, your job was like you were the conductor of chaos. Those like memes where people are spinning plates and there's like 15 plates spinning on a stick. Your job was to literally keep all those plates spinning to make sure everything was happening on time, which is a very, very helpful skill when it comes to running a travel agency that manages, 50, 60, 70 weddings a year. There's a lot of plates spinning.
Absolutely. And that's definitely, it led into a lot of the things that I applied into this position, because to try and focus on 10 different things at once, for a lot of people that can be overwhelming, and for me still at times it's overwhelming, but I have definitely been given the tools over the years to be able to do that and to be able to handle it, and when things get crazy, not go into meltdown mode. And so it's definitely something that I've been thankful for now in this new position. That's going back to what you're saying about hospitality. Even before Redline, back at Z2, it was all hospitality clients.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it was the Pfister, which is a boutique hotel downtown Milwaukee.
Beautiful hotel.
Grand Geneva, which is the old Playboy Club, and then the Intercon and the Hilton in Milwaukee. So
those are all great. Pfister, I forgot about that. We should go there. It's such a beautiful hotel. I loved Milwaukee. Okay, so you were working a great full-time job in advertising. Will's growing his business. You're newly settled in Florida. You have Mad Max now. You were kind of facing the decision that a lot of us in travel were facing. I started this as a side hustle, or I was kind of around it, in the background. Then you decided to make it your full-time job, and you quit your job to join Will full-time. what was that decision process and how did that go at first? Like, were you worried about working and living with him and being married to him? Like, that's a lot.
It's so many things there. That's so
Yeah. I
guess,
just asked you like 15 questions in
right.
one question. So go. Like, go do that.
It was really interesting how it all happened. So Will, we had talked for years about me coming into the agency and working with travel and working with the weddings and what does that look like? And it never seemed to be the right fit. Like I always, again, I was very proud of my career in advertising because I worked so hard to get into it, that it was going to be really hard for me. It had to be the perfect situation for me to walk away.
It's huge.
Yeah. And I was open to
Big
it.
deal.
Yeah. I was open to the idea of it, but it had to be the right position, and loved my time at Steinhoffels. But, at the time, sales didn't feel like that was the right position for me.
Right.
And so we talked about it. One day I come home from work and Will puts a piece of paper in front of me. He says, "Hey, my business coach is hiring for this position. Can you just take a look at it?" She wanted like a second set of eyes and make sure that it's, something that, if we need to change anything or whatnot. But since, you have the operations background, just take a look and see your thoughts. Okay. So I take a look at it and I run through it. It is everything that I'm looking for in a position. It is, running the operations, making the company more efficient, being involved in putting processes together and policies and, trying to make the company a little bit more polished, right? And I give it back to him. I said, honestly, I wouldn't change a thing. And secondly, let her know she doesn't need to, put it out there. I'll take the job. That's
What are you going to pay me?
right.
Like, what does this job pay? And what do I have to do to get this?
And he said, "I'm so glad you said that because this is actually for DWE. This is your position."
Ah,
So we, I don't know. He didn't create the position for me. He needed this in the company. It was DWE was getting to a point where it was so large, and we were, we were working on so many weddings a year, and we had a team now, and we needed to make sure that everything was being done the way that it should be done and being as efficient as possible, because we didn't really have time to waste time and
yeah.
do things backwards and do things over again. So I came in January of 2022. I came into DWE and joined the team, and it was kind of a little bit of magic for that year. It was, we, of course, working with your spouse, first of all, is concerning before you do it. Secondly,
Yeah.
it can be concerning while you're doing it. It's it's a scary thing because you're in the same space working on the same things all at the same time. Also, it adds another dynamic when your spouse is your boss. It's
No,
yeah.
I didn't think about it that way, but
Oh,
yeah, Will
yeah.
was the boss.
Yeah.
Will.
Uh-huh. And he played that card. That's there were lots of, heated conversations about, what we should be doing and how we should be doing it. And me telling him, the corporate way of doing it, and him explaining to me that this is not, a corporate environment. And he had a very clear vision of wanting to run a kind business.
Mhm.
And so I had to take some of my corporate training back a little bit, because corporate can be very cold,
Fair, but cold, I
Yeah,
would say. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And so that's, it was finding that balance, and we really did. I mean, 2022, obviously, things were a little different in 2022. Everyone was traveling again, or trying to travel again. And so for many reasons, but myself being on the team being one of them, DWE had its best year yet. It was doing phenomenally.
And what training? I mean, it was good training. And even if everything hadn't happened, like that was the best training year because it was chaos. Like all of us were in this boom, this post-pandemic boom of trying to like pick up our businesses again. And we had more demand than ever. And people's expectations were higher than ever. Pricing was crazy. Airfare was insane. Like what a time to jump into this industry.
Right.
And figure it all out. But you already knew. You weren't coming in totally cold. Yes, there was a whole different dynamic, but you had been watching him do this for years. And I'm certain you were weighing in on things and helping with things in the background.
Yep.
Because I know how Will was, and I know he needed that help in the background. So you were probably doing this long before you were getting paid for it.
Absolutely. It was, the nice thing about Will and I's relationship is that we were true partners. in a lot of things. And so, there would be many times where he'd be like, hey, I'm building this part of the playbook this week and I need to focus on this. What's the best way that we can talk about this? Or how do I scale this back so it sounds the way that it needs to? Or, what part of this process can be done better? And so we did a lot of that, kind of bouncing ideas off of each other. And I did the same thing too, in some of the things that we spoke about, in my career, just making sure that we were able to keep those conversations moving and make sure that we're always providing the support for the other person while, allowing them to be an individual and to run their own pieces of their business successfully. And so, yeah, I was involved in a lot of it, all the way through from the very beginning, almost the very beginning. He had the business moving before me. But it's, I think, one of my favorite stories with the university and with the agency was naming it. So we had changed. It was, originally Vacations by Will. And then Larimar Travels was going to be, the name of the business. And I helped him a lot with that logo when he was doing that piece. We decided at some point that people could not pronounce. I can't even say pronounce. People couldn't pronounce Larimar. They didn't know what it was, and they didn't know the meaning behind it. There was a very beautiful meaning behind it, but in his target market, it didn't translate.
It didn't translate, literally.
Yeah, exactly. So we decided to change the name. We were looking at different places that we could focus. Obviously, destination weddings at that point was his niche. And so Destination Weddings Expert, it was a natural fit. And we went through a lot of that. But one of my favorite stories is the difference between wedding and weddings.
I know where this is going because I see it every time I look at your email. I see it in there.
So if you look at our logo, it is perfectly fine. Destination Weddings Expert. It's one of the biggest debates that we had is when you shorten that into an email address or a URL, everything runs together. And when you take out the spaces, it's Destination Weddings Sexpert.
I still, to this day, I see it. That's my eye just goes there. Oh, and I love that you guys debated this. So I mean, now it's kind of a joke. I feel like now it's probably something funny to talk to couples about. It's a good icebreaker. It's great. It's
the perfect icebreaker. And that all of that was part of those conversations. At first it was like, no, we absolutely cannot do that. It's got to be singular. That's, and I'm sure I can't remember exactly, but I'm sure I was the one that was pushing for singular because
it's on brand for you.
Yeah. It's like, we cannot do that. And it ended up being, actually, this is going to be funny. This is going to be something that will give us a talking point, that will give us an in with a conversation icebreaker. And so we went with weddings, and now we are a Destination Weddings Expert.
And if you decide you'd rather move into sex therapy, you already have it. There's just a natural extension happening there. That'll be perfect because you don't have enough to do right now. Right. So let's add something else on there. Well, maybe that's a good segue. So February 2023 happens. Your whole world is rocked. How did you decide to keep going? I mean, it's not only losing Will, which was so hard, but then you have this business that is urgent. Our business is very time sensitive, and people have to remember too, this happened right in the thick of engagement season. So how did you decide to keep going, and what kept you going with all these things where people were just urgently needing your attention?
I could say that I spent all this time contemplating on what to do and how to move forward and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm sure that's not what happened.
It wasn't the case. It's, first of all, like you said, everything is very urgent. So immediately emails were coming in. Will was a huge presence in both the, Destination Weddings and on the agent side, with vendors, with everyone. And so, I mean, as soon as the word started spreading, it was, I jumped into PR crisis mode, and that's just trying to figure out how we put a message out there, well knowing that I couldn't actually have a conversation with anyone at the time. And so there was some of that, and then after that, almost immediately after that, it was, okay, this needs to live on, and it needs to live on for a lot of reasons. So first of all, just because he was such a big name on the wedding side, on the agency side, we had 50 weddings, 55 weddings, I think, moving at the time, and the thought of disappointing 50 couples and hundreds, thousands of guests, that's, trying to move them to another agency, or that didn't seem right. I had the tools that I needed to continue the agency moving. I helped Will form them. We put them into policy, and then we taught them in the university. And so there was no reason that I could not do that. That's on the agency side of things, or excuse me, on the university side of things, it wasn't even a consideration. The playbook, the inner circle had to live on. We have all of these agents. I think to date we're 300 plus agents that are in the playbook, and it's a community of like-minded individuals who, you know, support each other, who are there to answer questions, who make sure that, you know, they're taking the lessons that they've learned in their own business and sharing them with the community, which is why that was Will's original vision for the university, right? I couldn't in good conscience let that just go. I wanted to be there for the university, just like Will had been there before. So we continued on. It's sometimes clunky, like saying clunky, sometimes
clunkily,
sometimes, you know, really efficiently. And I've surprised myself at how I was able to step into it, because I really, it's going to come off sounding really cocky, but I knew that I could do it in the beginning. And it, you know, from my sales experience at Steinhoffel's to, you know, advertising and marketing in the agencies to, you know, where I was transitioning to into operations, all three of those things applied. And if I took that and took the lessons that Will put together and took all of those heated conversations that we had over a year, so that I knew exactly what his vision was and how we needed to carry forward, then I could do it. And with the help of you, and with the help of the community, and, you know, with the help of Nikki and Prissy, and
I was just thinking of Nikki and Prissy and how we couldn't go on without talking about Nikki. Has she had a break? Has that woman gone on vacation yet?
We're pushing on it. We're trying to get vacation going, but it's yeah, it's, you know, Nikki, I mean, day 2, Nikki was in there and making sure that we were, you know, she was running point on PR crisis with me. And I am just so blessed to be surrounded by so many people that also shared Will's vision. You know, it was easy for me. I was his husband. That's, you know, we dreamed together, we grew together, but I didn't realize the radius of that, of how many people were growing and dreaming with Will. And he was creating something that was contagious, you know, that everyone jumped into it. And it was easy to be that connected to Will, and everyone felt like his best friend. So everyone felt like they needed to carry it on.
Oh, I didn't think I was going to get, like, I was trying so hard and did not, but that got it. And oh, what a time. I mean, now looking back, I'm glad that you said you surprised yourself. I don't think anyone had any doubt. I think those of us who were watching just continue to be so amazed. And I think it's a good tie back to why we're here, which is we have this playbook, we have this community, we're here talking to agents. You are the living, breathing example of how these systems work. And we talked about this earlier. There are no accidents. Everything happens for a reason. You were almost trained along the way and intimately understood how these systems and tools worked. I'm sure that automation saved your ass in the first few weeks. Like, I'm sure, like, everything just happening the way that it should, because you had invested so much time and energy with Will and Nikki to build this business that at times can kind of run itself. Obviously not all the time, but it's such a good lesson for anyone who's interested in scaling up and leveling up their business, because we're all going to have times like this where something may happen and we may need to take a step back. We're all going to have times where we maybe have a family crisis, or, you know, a maternity leave or a paternity leave, or, you know, just wanting to take a vacation. Like, oh my God, how many of us just want to go on vacation and not worry about things happening? And so you've had this real life example now of how the playbook systems and tools work, period, end of sentence. And now we're here building this for the next generation of hopeful playbook graduates, and really just continuing this on, which is Will's legacy. I think it's what he would want. I think it's what all of us in the community want, is to see this go on. And I'm really, really so happy that you were even willing to sit down and do this, because I know I'm asking you a lot of nosy questions, and I'm sure people are like, Ashley, stop. Like, give the poor guy a break. But I also think it's so important for people to know you as a person and know just how qualified you are to be here. So, a scandalous question. Are you doing this because you want to, or are you doing this because you feel like you have to?
No, I am absolutely doing this because I want to. I feel like it would be the easy thing to lean back on. I have to do this. It has to live on, it has to be what Will envisioned it to be. And I don't think that was ever the case. It somehow, and I don't know when it happened, somehow Will and I's dream of what the playbook was and what that vision was supposed to be, it melded together. And it became my dream. It became my dream well before I even joined the company. And so that's, and way well before anything happened with Will. And so I'm doing it because I want it to live on, and because I want to give other people the tools that they need to be able to keep their business moving and to be able to grow it. And when shit goes sideways, these tools are what got me through. These tools and the team, they are what got me through. And so I would be remiss to just create that vacuum and take that out of the industry. The industry needs it. We're all trying to build the life for ourselves that we envision, and in order to do that, it's really easy with weddings to dive into it and to get a bunch of new clients and do these large groups. I shouldn't say it's easy to get the groups, but to
It's
find
possible.
yourself, it's possible. And then to find yourself in the situation where you can't support that level of volume, right? It's not the same as doing FIT travel. And so I think the want is far outweighs the need.
Yeah. And there's so much opportunity. It's just weddings. Will used to say that weddings are the hook, but the group is the benefit. I feel like I just it was like rote memorization. It just came out of my mouth, but it's true. People may think sometimes they start in the travel industry. Everyone's telling you, find a niche. That's how you differentiate yourself. That's how you can stand out. That's how you can, get clients. And that's all true. Like, finding a niche really does help build a business faster than not having a niche. But people don't realize that group travel is very different than FITs, like planning individual trips. It is a very different process from beginning to end. It's very contractual. It's very operational. It's something that can very easily be streamlined and you can replicate again and again and again. So by focusing on groups and weddings, you can build a business 5 times faster than you could just doing it on your own. And I think what's been so great about the community is that this is a place where people are very like-minded. They're willing to invest in themselves, both the time and financially, and really dedicate themselves to a system that works. And what I love about it and why we're here is because everyone is so supportive. It's not, if you're in the travel industry right now and you're kind of maybe newer or struggling to find a place, like you don't really have your tribe and you don't really know where you fit in. Oh my God, come on, we got you. This is the place. And it's such an interesting group of people that just have gelled together so well. And that's why I love it. And that's why I'm happy to see you continuing and, moving ahead, and asking me to be a part of it was so flattering and something I take very seriously. And I'm really happy that we're here.
Me too.
Absolutely. Weird circumstances, but I'm happy that we're here. Life is weird. So, as we kind of close the end, or kind of come to the end of this episode, of which there are going to be many more, we got really serious for a second. Yep. we got went there. We have kind of something we're going to do with every guest that comes on this podcast, and you get to be the first. This is the inaugural episode of the lightning round. I'm going to ask you.
I'm so terrified. I'm going to blurt out something I shouldn't. Okay.
That's going to make it amazing. All right. So, Mario, because we're here, the name of the podcast is Flights. We haven't really showcased our drinking much, but I have a feeling that will change over time. We're just being conservative because it's the first date. We don't want to go crazy right away.
Ease them into it.
What's your favorite wine?
Okay. I would have to say that if I'm out with, at a nice dinner, Malbec.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It's light. It goes with everything. Have you been to Argentina?
No.
Okay, we should do that. It's one of my favorite places I've ever been. And you can get a bottle of Malbec for $4. It's a nice bottle. It's just.
So you're telling me to bring a separate suitcase?
Yeah, that's probably, or you're definitely going to be shipping some stuff home. I'm almost sad that I did that trip when I was younger, and I feel like I wasted it because that was at the time when I was probably drinking Franzia out of a box. And I don't feel like I really appreciated it then. So maybe that's a do-over. Maybe that's a future playbook retreat. We'll just keep going south.
I think retreat, and we need to record a podcast episode from there.
Yeah, sounds
Yeah.
like a plan.
Flights in Argentina.
Anyone who wants to sponsor this, please let us know.
Starting
If
right off
you're
the bat.
watching.
Let's get them in.
Okay, continuing on. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Rome.
That's a good spot.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite curse word?
Okay. Okay. So, fuck, obviously, is a great one. I use it all the
So
time.
many.
I have another one. It's gonna offend some people, but I'm gonna say it
Yes,
here
that's what I'm here for.
yeah. I'm gonna say it here because you have to understand my justification, just in case I ever say it to you. So,
good.
one of my favorite ones is cunt, and I love it, but on the like as a term of endearment, like the Australians use it. Like it's the Australian translation of it, right? Like I say it to all my friends. I would never say it in a mean context. But I definitely, if you, especially after a couple glasses of wine, you're gonna hear it a couple times.
Yes. Are we gonna get like a YouTube warning on this channel?
We are. In fact, we're gonna have to beat that out.
We told people at the beginning. We did. We told people at the beginning, cover your ears. I don't want to hear it later when people are offended. People should know too that when we talked about doing this, we had two concerns. One, are we boring? Two, no, we're not boring, but we're definitely going to offend someone like right away. So glad we just got there. Yeah. All right, what's your least favorite word?
Everyone's least favorite word's moist. I can't stand it.
It doesn't bother me.
Oh, really?
I don't know. We'll get there. What's your love language?
Experiences are my love language. They do not get me a gift, get me an experience. Let's go somewhere, let's see something, let's do something, let's listen to some music. Not a sports guy. Let's go to a live sports game. Love it.
It's the people watching.
Yeah.
It's just like the environment, the people watching, and it's like food for your brain.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love it. What turns you off?
Oh, cockiness, over aggressiveness. I do not like it. Drives me crazy.
Cats or dogs?
Oh, dogs. Maxie.
Maxie's with his grandparents right now. Otherwise, I feel like we could show him off. But
Maxie's vacationing in Wisconsin right now, running in their backyard and chasing the rabbits. So
living his best life.
Yes, I'm excited to get him back here, but that's not going to happen until January. So
when I was at your house and Max let me pick him up, and the look on your face was so shocked because apparently he doesn't like anyone or only really like the two of you. He's very temperamental.
He can be. He can be kind of bitchy sometimes. You have to. It's not mean ever, but just a little judgmental.
Aren't we all? Cocktail of choice. How do we have two drinking questions on this list? I'm into it. I mean, that is the theme, but how did we get there?
Because it's us, and I think I wrote some of the lightning questions. That's
okay. We're gonna go with it.
Belvedere dirty martini, 3 olives for luck.
Blue cheese olives or no?
Yes.
Okay, that's the best.
Yeah.
Into it.
Wisconsin, I have to have blue cheese.
Yeah. Could you put a cheese curd in an olive?
Oh, absolutely good.
Super
that sound good.
What is the biggest travel mistake you've ever made for yourself? Not for a client, though. I guess that would be fun to hear too, but we'll wait on those. That could be a whole episode of client mistakes. Let's just talk about for ourselves.
I have definitely not booked a transfer for myself before and had to figure out what that looked like. I think the biggest travel mistake that I made personally, just for the well-being of my marriage, one of my favorite stories is when we in October, Will and I went to Italy, and we had been traveling together for about 2 weeks at this point.
That's a long time.
It's a long time to be traveling together. And we were in Florence, and we were going to see the David, and we were crossing the street, and Will was already slightly agitated with me. I can't remember why. But
marriage.
Yeah, there was a van coming down the road, and I went to push Will out of the way of the van, and because he was irritated with me, he fought me on it and ended up directly in front of the van. It may have been perceived that I was trying to push my husband in front of the in Italy. That was one of the biggest mistakes I made, because I
literally threw him in the front of the bus.
In front of the bus. Yep. And if you ever see, there's a picture of Will and I out there in front of the David, and he is stone cold sober in his face. It was because I told him, you need to get in this picture. I don't care that you're mad at me. I don't care that you think I tried to kill you. we just need to take this picture. So yeah, I'll share it
We
sometime.
need to put this. I was going to say we need like show notes, and that
Yep.
picture needs to be in the show notes because now I'm going to go back and look for it.
Yep. It's hilarious.
Oh God, that's funny. Traffic there is crazy, and people driving. I mean, that very easily could have been a serious accident. I'm glad you saved him. That's
Well, I'm amazed the van stopped. I was
oh gosh. Okay, what's on your bucket list?
okay, so that's tying kind of into that same conversation. That's Will and I did a tour of the north in October of Italy. So one of the biggest ones on my list right now, I want to do a tour of the south of Italy. We were supposed to go back and do that together. I'm going to be going back. I want to see Naples, and my family's from Calabria, and it's just to see Amalfi and things like that. I want to make sure that I do that and cross that off the list. And then most of my bucket list is travel, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, we're in this business for a reason.
Yeah, both domestically and internationally. I want to make it back to New Orleans. I want to do Greece, and my cousin lives in Japan. I want to get out to Japan before she moves back. So all travel related on the bucket list.
Those are good goals though. Yep. And that's the kind of the cool thing about having a business like this is we get to design it the way that we want to design it. We can put tools in place to make sure that we don't have to be 100% focused, 14, 16 hours a day. You can build a life that you want around these things that you want to do. It is very easy to have a successful business, multi-million-dollar successful business, and still have a life if you have the right tools in place.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Nothing else. I just want to say thank you for, again, everything that you've done, in the past couple of months, and for joining me here. And I think that, us putting this all out into the universe and to have some of these real conversations about, not only how we ended up here, but as the episodes go on, talking about the industry and the good, the bad, and the ugly, and everything that it's going to be. And I think it's amazing to have people hear from our two different perspectives, from an OG like yourself that's been in the industry for a long time, someone like me who's taking tools that I've had over the years and applying them to the industry, and I think it's going to be phenomenal.
I do too. It was never not an option for me. You were stuck with me whether you knew it or not. Whether it was by force or by invitation, it was going to happen. Because I just knew it has to be a team effort moving forward.
Absolutely.
And here we are. Good. Well, thank you to everyone who joined us. Thanks to Mario for letting me interrogate him for a little bit, all in good fun and for good reason. And hopefully you'll join us for the next one.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thanks. Bye. Running a travel business may have its challenges, but with a dash of humor, the right tools, an amazing community, and a lot of wine, success awaits us all. Raise a glass with us and toast to your remarkable journey.
Don't forget, if you're ready to take the next step in your travel career, one where you can focus on developing your niche, attracting leads, converting them into new clients, and automating your systems, you can build the business of your dreams. If you're ready, join us in the Playbook Inner Circle at jointheplaybook.com. We can't wait to see you inside.